full screen now, and we should be live.
Okay. I'm refreshing our channel.
Okay.
Yeah, same.
Okay, we're live.
Yay!
Yay! Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Talking Amongst Ourselves. It has been far too long. So we didn't do a show in August. That's right. Right? We had one in
Correct.
July and then not in August. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while because it's the end of September.
Yeah, it's the very end of September. How have we gotten here? But the end of September means the beginning of Victober is upon us, and we could not be more excited. I'm pretty sure we get more excited each Victober. So yes, it's quite exciting. So I thought we could very briefly touch on our current reads, if we have any. I think I'm tying up some loose ends before it starts, but I'm just so excited to be back with you lovely ladies. And I guess I'll just open with my current reads. So I started today, I was telling you earlier, as a palate cleanser read. I started an Agatha Raisin, The Day the Floods Came. So this is the 11th in the series, and I've had my mystery slump this year, but over the past couple months I've been like, oh, an Agatha Raisin, that's like a mystery I would like to listen to. So I'm listening to that, and it's just such a lovely, light, breezy audiobook. She's traveling as usual, and she's sardonic as usual. And of course, there's always drama in her love life. And then I have, let's see, 170. So I think I have 70 pages left of The Window on the Square by Phyllis Whitney.
Oh, yes. I remember you talking about those.
Yeah, so there's nothing against it that I haven't finished it yet. I started it in August. It's just that my reading in August and September, because of Victober excitement and preparation, is always kind of thrown off. But once I sit down with it, it's super easy. It is pretty dark. So I don't know what kind of ending it's gonna have. Like if it's gonna have a neat little ending tied on a bow. Or I don't see how there's going to be a neat little resolution, honestly. Things are kind of at an impasse. So I'm very curious to keep reading, and there is some it's really, really engaging. And I do find the protagonist, whose name is Megan, which sounds like such a modern name, but it's one of those names that has a modern association, but is actually a really old name. Um, yeah, like Amanda. Amanda's an old name that we think of as such a modern name.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's the Jane Eyre setup where she's a governess and things are not always as they seem. It's very intense though, because one of the two kids shot father. It's really dark. Yeah, I know. So that's that would be, I don't know if Mary Stuart would ever have that in a plot. So it's definitely feels pretty dark. Um, but she has she's kind of tried to get to know him and kind of get inside his head and what happened, and sort of that. And then I have less than 100 pages left of The Fisherman's Lady by George MacDonald. So this actually is a Victorian novel. It very much does not feel like a Victorian novel, though. It's a domestic novel with a mystery in it. It's set on the coast of Scotland, so it's a great location. It's so cool because it opens up and there's a bagpiper who blows the bagpipes plays the bagpipes every morning to wake up the little town. And then there's this old house with a locked room that nobody knows what's in the locked room. And there's a bit of a romance, and there's love of literature in here. The first time this couple meets, he finds her on the beach reading The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser. So then maybe I should read The Fairy Queen. Anne of Green Gables loves it. And it's referenced in different books. And then we have a copy of it, and I picked it up, and just the language is so hard. So maybe someday I'll read The Fairy Queen, but not for now.
I definitely have books like that I'm like, one day when I'm feeling adventurous, but not right now.
Yes. So I guess, Becky, do you have anything you're currently reading?
Well, I've been, toggling back and forth between screens. So I finished 2 books today. I'm in the middle of one other, but I didn't bring it in the room. But I'll talk briefly about the 2 books that I finished. So the one was Carney's House Party, which was for the Betsy Tacy read along. And Kate, I know you had been talking about this series. It's just like it's so easy to pick up. And
Yes.
and even though Carney's House Party isn't a Betsy Tacy book, and so you see less of the trio, it still just felt like home, which was really fun. And it was really neat to see someone who'd been more of a minor character become the protagonist, because I realized, like, I sort of knew Carney, but not really. So I felt as though I got to know her more in this book. And it's funny, in your like recap video, you were talking about the sleeping porch, and my grandmother grew up in a farmhouse that had a sleeping porch. Now there was it sort of resembles like a sunroom, like it has an exterior door, unlike Carney's. But it was just funny when I first read it. She was talking about the sleeping porch, like that's what my grandma always calls it. So I was like picturing Carney's house as the house my grandmother grew up in, which I've been in. So that was kind of fun for me. Like I was inserting myself into the story. So yeah, I thought it was really fun. And then
did you like Sam or Larry, or did you not care?
I'm more Team Larry, but I think the situation that Carney found herself in was very relatable. And so I liked that. I always feel like in the Betsy Tacy books, when you first read them, they really are like light and fun, but they do have a moral or a lesson to them, but they don't, at least to me, they don't come across as like super preachy the way that some Victorian novels do. So even though there's kind of a recap, and I also feel as though the lessons that the girls learn in each of the books are a little more nuanced. Like it's not just, I shouldn't lie, or like, oh, I need to think about others, or like really obvious things that tend to happen in teen and preteen books. So it was not. I was almost going to do a spoiler for Little Women, but there may be someone out there who hasn't read Little Women. I did not have the reaction I did while reading the reaction that every person I've ever talked to has when reading Little Women. I did not have that feeling with.
That's very considerate of you to not spoil it.
Yeah, because I feel like that's one that everyone's read, but maybe there is someone out there who hasn't read Little Women. And then the other book that I just finished less than an hour ago was one that Kate sent me, and that was The Lazy Tour of Two Idle Apprentices, which on here says it's written by Charles Dickens, but it was co-written by Charles Dickens and a very young Wilkie Collins, at least from what I was able to read. So yeah, it was fun. It was
odd.
Was
it odd?
It was, but I think it's because it was written by two people, because there are a couple points where there's a story within a story. So, like, the two apprentices are on this trip, sort of like Three Men in a Boat. There's a hilarious scene where they go hiking. And it's very, very much, like, if you enjoyed Three Men in a Boat, that scene is very similar. But throughout their trip that they go on, they meet people, and then sometimes the people they meet go on these very long tangents about, like, let me tell you what happened to me, and let me tell you about this story I heard. And some of those stories within the story were, like, very ghost story-like.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was reading one review that said that, like, definitely Wilkie Collins wrote that part. I don't know, like, how much evidence there is, because I'm not a literature scholar or whatever. So it was interesting, because some parts were, it was definitely a little choppy, but I liked the different parts that I read.
Okay.
Yes, and then there were parts where, like, I haven't read enough Wilkie Collins where I can completely pinpoint his writing style, and then I get to one paragraph and I'm like, this is totally Charlie. This is Mr. Dickens here. Like, he wrote an entire paragraph about a butter dish, and I'm just like, this has to be the work of Charles Dickens. There's no way Wilkie Collins wrote this. And it would kind of catch me by surprise. We're like, I don't know if the previous stuff, I don't know if they split up chapters or if one wrote one chapter and one wrote the other. I'm not really sure how the book came to be. But there were definitely paragraphs that I'd hit. I was like, this is Charles Dickens. Like, I smell him through the paper. So anyway, those were two things that I finished today. Bethany,
Awesome.
what have you been reading?
I've been reading, what did I finish today? Station 11 by, I think it's Emily something Mandel. I don't know. I don't have it. So it was on my Kindle, but it was post-apocalyptic, and I'm not typically the type of person to read those kind of books because I don't like heavy, like depressing, like, oh, the world's over, you just lost everyone you love. Now keep living. I don't like that style, if that makes sense. So it was kind of a leap of faith reading it, and like, okay, a lot of people like this book. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I'm just gonna give it a chance. And it was really interesting. It was one of those books that, like, it doesn't go into too much graphic detail where it's like cringe. I don't think I can keep reading this. It's heavy, but it's balanced with like the good writing and hope. Like there's definitely hope in it, which was good. And I kind of like was like, okay, I'm going to read this, and then at the same time, I'm going to read Mary Poppins Comes Back as like the balancer. So that way, I read about all this like crazy stuff that happens when the world is ending as people know it. Like, I think it's like 1% of the world's population survives, something like that, and that's like crazy. So you can imagine all the things, and that's such a big topic, like how do you write like 400 pages and put a good blend of everything that would be going on in the world? I don't know. Somebody should do a really good job, because you think of all the things that would shut down and would stop. Like, the world ends in, like, as they know it, electricity goes out, water, all the things that you need the billions of people in the world to run, and they're, most of them are gone, so everything stops. And it's like, you even think about zoos. It wasn't in the book, but like all these wild animals or semi-wild animals, just like what happens to them and what happens to, it's a big topic. There's a lot that you could explore with that topic, and the author mainly keeps it to the people, like humanity, and how we kind of like maybe want to hold on to our humanity, but we kind of get a little feral maybe, and it was interesting. So kind of like it reminded me a little bit of Jurassic Park in some ways. Like, what would happen if the controls that are in place, police, electricity, like the checks and balances, what happens when those go away? Do people still maintain, or is it anarchy? So it was interesting. And then I finished Mary Poppins Comes Back today, and that was fine. It wasn't like, ooh, I'm going to really sit and think about this book. It was just kind of like one of those books like, nice things. Mary Poppins snapping, her fingers at the children, and like, I don't know, reliable, predictable, fluffy. So
Yeah.
it was a good balance. And then I am currently kind of like picking my way through this one. You can see that, How to Be a Victorian.
Yes.
It's probably backwards. I don't know. Maybe. Looks backwards on my screen. But
it showed up regular for me.
It did? Okay, good. Yeah, it's just like the author, Ruth Goodman, she's like, her experience mixed with things she's read in like journals of different Victorian people, things she knows about the Victorian era, and piecing together like what basically a day in the life would be, getting dressed. And she really goes into a lot of detail with like, I mean, I'm not very far into it, but like the clothing, and I thought, Becky, you would enjoy this, because it was like, ooh, this is really interesting. Just like the fabrics, and like she even talked about jeans and how today we call them jeans, but it wasn't actually the fabric that we know as jeans wasn't actually what they knew as a jean, and it was like singular, not plural. It's very interesting. So there's a lot of like clothing details even in it, and I was like, Becky would like this.
Yes.
Becky would be like, ooh, give me more.
Yes. Yes, I would. It would probably be bad because then I'd want to like find his like. It would just be bad. I'd go down a whole rabbit trail. Bethany, another comment on Station 11. I didn't realize it. I haven't read it, so I didn't realize it was a post-apocalyptic tale. But in some ways, it sounds like the beginning of Stephen King's The Stand, because most of the it's in the beginning of that book. Most of the population is wiped out by a disease, and so you're left with a very small amount of the population. And it is like that. Where like everyone was trying to leave the major cities, and all the highways are blocked. So like there are just abandoned cars everywhere, and no one to clear them off the road. So people just end up kind of walking everywhere, and all of this other stuff.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing it's probably less graphic and a lot shorter than The Stand. So I read the extended version. That was like the 25th anniversary version, and I was like, why did I do this to myself? I blocked a lot of it, which probably means I didn't enjoy it. But the parts I remember I enjoy, but I remember not feeling as though I enjoyed it after I finished it the first time. So
it was interesting because the writing was really good, and then you've got like you're focused on a couple characters, but they're all like all of their paths kind of cross.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all connected. So you're not like this character and then switch to this character and switch to this character, and it's like completely unrelated. It kind of keeps the main storyline all together, all their perspectives, and it's basically the same thing. You've got sickness takes out a bunch of people. The people that are left, a lot of them die just from the lack of, you name it, the lack of meditation, if they are taking some sort of a medication to keep themselves alive, the lack of care, if they step on a rusty nail, then die. It's a world where it's like, there's gangs running loose, looting things, wanting to take, rob and take things from you, and then there's groups of communities of people that are like, kind of like little towns where they have their own sort of law there, and it's more civilized. So it's really interesting because it takes place over a span of like 20 years, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And it's a long span, but they just give you kind of like snippets. She gives you the beginning, the end, and then bits in the middle. And like I think one of her really interesting tactics in the book was like most of the characters don't really remember the first year. They're so traumatized.
Oh.
Just the amount of death and like human bodies just everywhere, dying and rotting, and the smells and the, just imagine like going from civilization to nothing, and all these people are dead, and they're so traumatized that it's just like they don't even remember the first year. So it was heavy, but it wasn't too what do you call it? Like explicit or graphic, so that you really I feel like dead after reading this book. It was good. It was handled well, balanced well. So, yeah. So that's what I finished today.
Very nice. Yeah, I also finished Tess of the D'Urbervilles today, and I feel like bleh. Like the other one, most of the ones that I've read from him, I'm like, I can't wait to reread that when I finish it. But Tess, I'm like, I leave you here, Tess.
Goodbye forever.
Goodbye forever. I shall blow a kiss. Goodbye. Yeah. I mean, I knew it has such a reputation, and I think, like, I think I wouldn't have talked myself out of reading it. Like, I knew how sad it was because I've seen the miniseries. But I think like I kind of just want to have like eventually like checked off like Thomas Hardy's bibliography, and so it's what I had to get to. So yeah, yeah. It had beautiful writing, and it wasn't up until like the halfway point I felt like all the stress was worth it. And then at the halfway point, I was like, oh no, I want off. Adam, so I read it with Adam from Memento Mori and Kate from the novel Nomad, and then Natalie from My Reading Days got behind, but she's gonna catch up. But Adam like said in one message, he's like, "We're on the pain train, and we can't get off." So, yes. Well, shall we talk about what we will be reading during Victober? Our hopes, dreams, ambitions, goals,
Yes. Yes.
etc., etc. Well, Bethany, I see you grabbing one. You look like you are ready. Do you
I'm
want to
ready.
pick us
I wanted
off?
to make sure my Kindle, the one I have on my Kindle, was up too. Yeah, I can share. I don't know, where should we start?
I know. Like,
Start at the beginning, the first challenge. Were they in order? Were the challenges in order?
oh, the challenges.
It might have changed
Okay, yeah,
depending
that's
on
a good idea. So just pick a challenge, and then we can have Becky and I can have our book for that challenge ready.
Okay.
I like that plan.
So underrated Victorian classic published the same year as your favorite Victorian classic. My favorite Victorian classic is Our Mutual Friend by Charles Dickens. And so that was published between 1864 and 1865. So I found a very fun little book called The Perpetual Curate by Margaret Oliphant.
Yes.
Something like that.
Elephant.
I read, yes. I'm like, how do you say her name? I read Miss Marchbanks.
Yes.
It's Miss Marchbanks.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've read that. Oh, when was that read along? It was 2 years ago, right?
I think it was 2 years ago, yeah.
I think it was 2 years ago. So I've read one book by her already. And she's a little bit of a lesser known Victorian author, I would say. So I was excited to find this one. It's like, okay, it's not very highly read or rated. Not like it's a bad book, but like there's just not a lot of ratings on Goodreads. So
yeah.
I'm like thinking underrated.
Yes. She was Queen Victoria's favorite author.
Really?
Yes.
Now that's ironic. She's not a popular author now, but during the Victorian period, she was Queen Victoria's favorite.
So
I
read. So they're all the Perpetual Curate and Miss Marchbanks are part of the Carlingford Chronicles.
I didn't know.
Yes, yeah. So like loosely connected, kind of as connected as Trollops like would be, although his get a bit more. Anyhow, so I didn't enjoy Miss Marchbanks. And Miss Marchbanks got like 3 stars for me, and the Perpetual Curate, and then the other one that I read that I can't remember the title. I enjoyed those more. So I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I think it was published, 1864. So it would be within the range for Our Mutual Friend. So what about you? What are you reading for that challenge?
So I am reading a book by Amelia B. Edwards, who Amelia Peabody, that's her namesake, and it's called Barbara's History, and apparently it involves bigamy. So
Scandal.
Sensation. Never a dull day. Yes. So I can't say I'm not that surprised though when I see like a Victorian novel involving bigamy. I'm like, oh yeah, Victorian trope. Yes. So yeah, I'm excited though because she wrote The Phantom Coach, that ghost story that I've read, and I love it. Like it's just so it hooks you. And I read it aloud last year at my like book club's ghost story event, and somebody said like, "Oh, it gave me chills." So her writing is really engaging. So I'm excited about it. And Becky, what have you chosen?
Okay, so I feel like I'm cheating with mine, but I know when Lucy was giving the description for her challenge, she was like, it's up to you for interpretation. So this is how I'm interpreting it. So I couldn't decide exactly what my favorite Victorian novel was. I was stuck between Wuthering Heights and Dracula. So I just decided to look at lists for both and kind of cheat and then see if there were any books within 1897, I think, and 1847 or 48. the dates are leaving me right now. But I decided to go with Dracula, and I chose The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells.
Oh.
So it's not as as lesser known or underrated as, say, a Miss Oliphant book. But I do think that when people think of H.G. Wells, they tend to think War of the Worlds and The Time Machine. Even though I think The Invisible Man at one point was just as popular. I'm pretty sure there was a film adaptation made in the 30s. I think, but my husband's also a movie nerd, so that may have been an underrated film, and I have just happened to have seen it a super long time ago. But anyway, I read some H.G. Wells last year, and I enjoyed it. And science fiction is a genre that I never give enough of my time, and then when I do read it, I actually really enjoy it. So I was like, I also want to mix up my genres for Victober, so this is going to be my sci-fi, under 250 pages, underrated book. So, The Invisible Man is what I am going with.
Excellent. Okay,
Awesome.
I think that's a good lead-in then to the under 250 pages, because you're counting that also?
Okay, so I have an A list, a B list, and a C list for Victober, because October is going to be a very busy month for me. So I have a lot I want to read, and I know if I have options, I'm more likely to read, but I also don't want to feel like a failure if I can't complete as many books. So if I only get to the A list, yes, that book is counting as 2. But I think I have another couple short ones that could count if I make it to the B list. C list is going to be really overachieving. I don't anticipate getting that one. But yes, if I have to do the minimal Victober, that one's going to count as 2. That was a long answer to your very simple question.
That's okay.
But
do you want to know the other ones that you might get to for the pages?
We can get to that later.
Okay.
So you guys can go on to your next the next prompt.
I guess Bethany, do you want to show yours? We'll just keep going in this order.
So I picked a book over 500 pages for this, not necessarily on purpose. It just was one that I had on my Victober TBR, grand scheme Victober TBR, books that I want to read in some Victober at some point. And it was Lorna Doone, which this is from Becky. Becky sent this to me. I'm so excited. So this one's 719 pages.
It's a chunker.
I'm what am I doing to myself?
You're gonna pace yourself. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna read a little bit each day.
I know, and this is gonna be I'm starting the minute October gets here. It's come on, Lorna Doone.
Midnight. You can stay up until midnight, with a flashlight or with a candle.
So happening, yes, definitely.
12 run at least reading the first sentence, and then you can go to bed.
That will make me feel better. It honestly will. I'll be okay, I've got a jump start on this Victober thing, So I'm excited. This isn't even the longest book on my TBR for this month or coming month. So I'm okay, Bethany, you gotta start this right away. So I don't think I'm gonna read a 250 pager. I'm not gonna do the both. I think I'm just gonna count this as both, even though it's not really accumulatively 750 pages. It's close. If I read maybe the appendix.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah. I could
do the math. I could probably goes all the way to 750. So this is for both. I'm just kind of smudging the challenges together. But that is my choice for that Katie's challenge, the second challenge.
Very cool. Okay, so mine that I've picked, I'm doing both. I'm saying I'm doing both right now. So I'm successful. All right, and this book, this will be my 3rd time trying to read Vanity Fair.
Dun, dun, dun.
The closer I get, the more nervous. Don't you start to feel the weight of your Victober TBR? Here are all these books that I wanted to read. And now I just happen to hear passing comments on BookTube of people being I tried Vanity Fair, but it just wasn't for me. But I keep trying to remember, my aunt talked for 5 minutes when we were at the beach last summer about how delightful Vanity Fair was and how she found it like just so easy to read and to get stuck into. And it is like it's such an iconic Victorian novel. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's so many people who really don't know a lot about Victorian literature that have at least heard about Vanity Fair. They
Mm-hmm.
like know the title. So yes, I'm hoping I like it, but I'm scared now because let's see, what is it? So it's not quite as long as Lorna Doone. It's 731 pages. But I remember I texted you guys like a picture of this, all excited that I found it. There are no notes in this.
Oh, wow.
No footnotes, no endnotes, no nothing. There's
Is
like
that the Modern Library
yes,
edition?
yes.
Like, looking. I don't know if they typically have them or not.
I think I just assumed because they
No.
look so academic, right? There's
Yeah,
like
what the heck? Oh, wait, no, this one does have notes. Agnes Gray, and this is a Modern Library. It does have notes.
well, I got gypped.
But your copy is missing pages. The notes.
Oh,
I said, your copy's missing the notes.
yes.
Yeah, no, I don't honestly think it's missing pages. I shouldn't say that.
Yes. So yeah, I hope I like it. My plan, you can see I have a cajillion tabs, is to read a little bit each day. So I did follow the rule of only picking one like super tome this year. So like only one book above 500 pages. So I didn't do that last year and I burned out. And then for the under 250 pages, which this I feel like some people have said, no, it's totally under. And then this is a good lead into the reread challenge. Is Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell.
That's such a pretty cover.
Isn't it pretty? Yes. So this is, I had told you before about the different Penguin English Library covers.
Mm-hmm.
I got a thrift store at the Strand bookstore in New York City, and this has the nice like rubbery cover.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
One, yeah. The only thing is then on the back, actually, it kind of has accumulated more dirt than maybe if it wasn't rubbery. So it doesn't show up on the front because it's a dark color, but on the back where there's white, you can kind of, I don't know if you can tell on the camera.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you're talking about, yeah.
But I like this edition. And also, so sweet. I read in one of Elizabeth Gaskell's letters, someone had written her how much they loved Cranford, and she said, "Thank you. It's my only book that I can reread, like myself. And when I'm ill and I want something to comfort me, I reread Cranford."
Aww.
It's like fond memories of her childhood. So, yeah, it's just a delight from start to finish. I do have a really nice audiobook of it. So, looking forward to that. So, Becky, what do you have selected for the reread challenge, if anything?
Okay, so this is kind of, well, I gotta make myself bigger so people can see who's talking. I have one picked. How do I want to describe this? I'm just going to dive in. So the group read for Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest.
Yes.
It's so funny because I actually had the plays of Oscar Wilde as a potential for my Victober TBR already.
Oh.
And I can't remember if I've actually read The Importance of Being Earnest, but I've seen both movie versions and I've seen a stage play. So I'm very familiar with it.
Yes.
So initially that's going to count as my reread because I've experienced it so many times on the A list. But I'm really hoping I'm going to get... knocked my phone off the table. I'm really hoping I'm going to get to my B list pick because it is Dracula. And if I read it, I'm reading the annotated version.
Oh, I see John has put a handy dandy cover on that for you.
Yes. My husband is very, once he discovered Brodart dust jacket covers, I'll bring a book home and he's like, can I Brodart that? Brodart is a verb in our home. Yes.
That's fun.
But anyway, and it has all of these illustrations as well.
Oh, so cool.
So I know it'll be like longer to read this one, but the first time I read Dracula, I was just like, oh, this would be so fun in an annotated version because I feel like I'm only picking up like half of, especially the religious symbolism.
Yes.
because there are lots of like Anglican and Catholic symbolism, and I wasn't raised Catholic, so I feel like there were some things that I sort of understood, but my Protestant background wasn't picking up as much. So I'm really hoping that I can get to this. Plus, like reading Dracula around Halloween.
Oh yeah.
I don't even like Halloween all that much, but they're like when it's chilly and you're under a blanket, it would just be so atmospheric. And I'm really, really hoping that getting a glare. I'm really, really hoping that I can get to it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and even though it's a big book, it's actually one of those ones that's pretty light. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Oh, I just realized there are like. I haven't looked at this in a while since I bought it, but there are like historic, like not just illustrations, but historic photographs.
Oh, like the house and things?
Of like places, or like this one is captioned "The New Women." So it's like describing, you know, progressive women riding bicycles. And so this is going to be so fun.
Yay!
Anyway, very excited. Really hoping that I get to that.
Yes. So Bethany, what do you have selected for your reread challenge, if anything?
Clocking in at 837 pages. Martin Chuzzlewit.
Woo!
I kind of debated on this one because I knew I wanted to read a Dickens, and I have Barnaby Rudge and Sketches by Boz that I still haven't read. But I'm like, you know what? If I'm gonna do a Dickens in addition to like Lorna Doone, like a bigger book, I think I want to read one that I've already read. And then I'm like, okay, well, should I read Our Mutual Friend for like the 7th time, or should I reread Martin Chuzzlewit, which is also like a favorite of his. I really enjoyed this one.
Oh.
I mean, it's like Our Mutual Friend, Dombey and Son, and Martin Chuzzlewit. Although I don't know, Martin Chuzzlewit, Dombey and Son, it's close. It's close. It's really close.
Really like, this is totally like, I've seen the miniseries, but I really liked the miniseries, and it's made me really want to read Martin Chuzzlewit. Yeah.
Well, that's what got me into Dickens in the first place. I think it was, I don't remember what the first like miniseries was I saw, if it was Nicholas Nickleby or Bleak House. It was one of those. Mm-hmm. But it like, I'm like, I gotta read this stuff. This like these are books. This is amazing. Yeah. Like, because I grew up, you know, watching Pride and Prejudice, BBC, Pride and Prejudice, and, like then reading the book, and so I was like, oh yeah, British dramas are based on books. So I'm gonna watch the British dramas and get the books and do all of the the English literary things.
And that's what happened to Katie from Books and Things. She saw, I forget what movie, but she saw a movie of a Dickens. Or no, that's a lie. She saw a movie of Jane Eyre, and then she was like, oh, I have to read this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but those were like some of the first ones, like Bleak House, Nicholas Nickleby. I mean, Jane Eyre, even. Those were some of my first Victorian literary classics that I ever read, and they're still like, oh, they're so good. Except Nicholas Nickleby. He's not that great.
No, I agree with that. Jane Eyre is such a great like entry point into Victorian literature.
Definitely. Oh yeah. So it's just iconic. It's like the flagship Victorian reading.
And all the tropes. Yeah. That was when I debated about rereading. Okay. Do you have one, Bethany, for Ange's challenge?
By a female author or one that's unknown to you?
Yes.
See, when I saw that, I was like, or bonus one that's new to you, I was like thinking it was the title, bonus, a book that's new to you, because of it coming after reread. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. And then it was like, oh, no, wait, they mean a female author you've never read before. So I thought about getting Deerbrook by Harriet is it Martineau?
Yes.
Martineau? I'm not sure. Martineau, okay. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to kind of like smudge this a little and start with Shirley. And maybe if I have a really good reading month, I might see about reading Deerbrook as well. So
gotcha.
It's up in the air, but at this point I'm going to read Shirley because I've been like on a Bronte kick all year. I've read several biographies of the Brontes. I borrowed one from Becky when I was visiting, and I skipped all the bits about Shirley because I didn't want plot spoilers. I'm like, it's all right. I will just screenshot all these pages and I will read them after I'm done. Becky's like, oh my God.
You should
I'll
have
read
just
them after I've read the book.
You should have just kept it, because I wasn't going to read that biography until I'd read all the books anyways. You could have kept it for another 2 years.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine.
Did you know Charlotte Bronte based the character of Shirley on her sister Emily?
Really? That
Yeah.
makes it even more intriguing because Emily wrote Wuthering Heights, and that is a bunch of crazy stuff.
I reread Shirley at some point, and I'm going to be like looking.
Yeah. Well, after Villette, we did Villette. Becky and I did Villette last year as a buddy read, and after that, I'm like, whoa, because I read The Professor by Charlotte Bronte, and I was like not wowed by it. So I was kind of like, okay, I guess Jane Eyre is like her really good novel. And then after reading Villette, I'm like, whoa, this is really amazing. Like, there's so much to this. I'm like, I gotta read Shirley now too. So I've been like re-inspired to continue.
Yes. Yeah,
they don't have a lot of books. So
no.
Last one.
I'm rereading Villette, and I'm definitely enjoying it more than the first time. But then, like, I didn't want to rush it, and I was trying to finish it like in time for Victober, so I could talk all about it for Victober. But then I was like, I don't want to rush this. Like, it's stressing me out. So it's just gonna wait for me.
I think it took Bethany and I how long? Like at least 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
To read it, we went through it pretty slowly because I had a lot of stuff going on, right when Victober started, which always is what seems to happen. But I think I enjoyed Villette more because I did take it so slowly.
Yes.
Plus, flipping back to the footnotes, looking at all the French. Poor Becky had to actually translate all of her French. She was a regular Ravenclaw with her edition.
And it is. I think it's that. It's not, the reading doesn't come easily in Villette, but it's very worth your time. I think that's what I think.
Yeah, it's got a good payoff. Definitely.
Yes. Because it's really staying with me. Like I'm thinking about it a lot. So yes.
That's so true. Those books you have to contemplate and you find yourself thinking about them even after you're done reading them for the day or whatever. That's a good book.
Yes. All right, my pick for the excuse me, new to you female author is A Struggle for Fame from Bethany. Yes. So I got even more excited about it just when I was filming my TBR video and I read out the first paragraph. Yeah, just such a good, it felt and I mean this as a compliment when I say this. It felt like a Dickens opening paragraph, how you get a big picture, a very vivid picture of what is going on around you and what is happening. I felt like I was right there. So yeah, I'm excited. I have all my buddy reads laid out, and I'm hitting the ground running the first week. So I think I won't be starting this until the second week. But that's what I'll be doing. So it's just about a girl who her father has died. She's Irish, and so she travels. She moves to London, and so there's going to be some cultural clash there. Ooh, Irish. The prejudices, and Irish Catholic to top it off.
That was my first thought, especially since we were talking about Villette, because religion plays a really big part in that book.
Yeah. So, and what I love too is it's put out by Tramp Press. So I think they're trying to re-own the term. Yeah. So, and this looks like gymongous, but it's not even 400 pages. So the pages are just very good quality and thick. But it's also, this is a good paperback because it's what do I want to say? The flaps, French flaps, and it's sturdy, but it's also really floppy. Yeah, this is my paperback.
I think Borders had those kind of Borders paperbacks because I have some like that where they have the flaps to them, and they're thick.
Yes.
That makes sense. Yeah, those are awesome. Yeah. Glad it was such a good paperback. Yay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Kate, would you like to explain why you have a book from Bethany?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even say. So we decided, I asked the ladies, and I knew they would be good sports and be up for it. I said, why don't we do a Victober mystery book exchange? To kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes I'll use the jewelry analogy that I like to use. Sometimes when I'm gifted jewelry, I look at it and I think, you know what? I never would have picked this out for myself, but I'm so glad you picked it out because I really like it. And so so to avoid maybe possibly like a stale Victober TBR, something that like I wouldn't have picked out myself this year. So Bethany picked that out for me, and I'm sure we'll see the other ones in the TBR. Becky, do you want to what was the challenge we were doing? Oh, the new to you female author pick.
Yes.
Do you have one?
Yes. So again, A list. So this is kind of doing 2. Is also will count as my over 500 pages, and that is East Lynne by Mrs. Henry Wood.
Ah,
Just partially because last year I read so many different kinds of literature during Victober. Like I read some humor, I read some serious, I read a lot of children's books, I read some heavier things, I read some long, I read some short, some were physical, some were some were audiobook. And I think the variety of genres that I had within Victorian literature, because Victorian's really an era, it's not a genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that all the variety helped me not get stuck in a rut or have burnout. So I was really trying to pick variety. So I've got like the science fiction one, and then I wanted a sensation novel. And so many people in the Goodreads group were talking about reading East Lynne. And I found it at a bookshop this summer. I was like, oh, I feel like I've kind of heard a little buzz about this on BookTube. I don't really hear about it elsewhere in the world, but on BookTube it kind of circulates, and so many people were saying that this was going to be their female author pick. And my edition is over 500 pages, so I was like, great, get to knock out 2 of them, and I knew I wanted a sensation novel, so for me, my personal goals, it kind of checked a third box for me. So I'm excited because I'm trying to mix things up. So far, yeah, I've had the reread one that's a later Victorian novel, the play, the science fiction, and the sensation novel. So I'd say that so far that's pretty good variety.
Excellent. Yes.
So yeah, and I don't know anything about it except that it's a sensation novel, so I'm going in blind.
Yes.
But I'm okay with that.
Yeah, there you go. So I think we covered all the challenges. So then do you want to show your mystery book?
Oh, yes. Yes. So Kate, we actually drew names, technically. I had to draw Kate's and show it to her through a computer screen. But Kate drew me essentially, and she sent me The Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy, and this edition is just so pretty. And it's another good, floppy, comfortable. And I'm super excited that she sent this to me. As she was saying, your jewelry analogy is perfect. It's probably not something I would have picked for myself, but Bethany, I think you read it recently.
I did. I read it this month.
Yeah, and Kate, I know you read it and absolutely loved it. So you guys have been hyping it up for me. So now I'm getting excited. And the pretty book, I'm just oh, it's so pretty. I want to look at it. I want to touch it. It's just so nice. So Thomas Hardy is an author that intimidates me. Just because Kate, as you were saying, he's most known for Tess de Ubervilles and Jude the Obscure, and I know nothing about either plot except everyone says they're so heavy and so depressing. And I'm that combined with Victorian literary language sounds very intimidating.
Yes.
But I do keep hearing really good things about The Return of the Native. And I'm just very curious to see why a bonnet was chosen for the cover of this novel. Yeah. And also, Kate, I think you said in some ways it reminded you of Wuthering Heights.
Yes.
So I'm very curious to see. I'm not going into it thinking it's going to be Wuthering Heights, but I reread Wuthering Heights last year and loved it just as much, if not more, than the first time I read it. So I'm very, very
kind of the general vibe to it and how nature plays a very big part in the story.
Okay. Yes. So anyway, so this was my mystery book, and I think It's going to push me a little out of my comfort zone simply because it's of the title, or not the title, simply because of who the author is. But I think once I get a few chapters in, then I won't be as scared. So this is going to be my, like, day one of Victober, at least read a chapter. Like, this, if anything, is the one, well, this and the Oscar Wilde plays, because those are going to be short, and they're just so fun. Like, Importance of Being Earnest is so fun. I seriously can't wait. Like, if I read nothing else this month, it's going to be these two. So.
I am just so excited to read his plays. So I remember last year, Becky, you just saying what a great Victober you had and how you had such a good variety. And so I was like, okay, variety, got it. So I haven't quite made, okay, the one thing that I was watching Natalie from Curious Reader, her TBR, and I'm like, nature writing. She's reading Victorian nature writing. Why didn't this occur to me? So that's the one thing that I'm really bummed about. But the Oscar Wilde plays, like when I was discussing with the other hosts too, like what we could do for a group read. And then Katie's like, okay, well, we'll just put up a poll because I had suggested Oscar Wilde and she was wondering about George Gissing. And then we picked a couple of others. I was like, please, Oscar Wilde plays. And we got them as the group read because I probably would have participated in whatever the group read was, but then it just makes it so easy. So, you know how Dave and I have usually on Friday nights, we have our like ice movie date. And so I told him, I was like, next Friday, you're watching The Importance of Being Earnest with me. He's like,
which one are you watching? Because there are at least 2 movie versions.
I'm watching the one with Reese Witherspoon because that was the one that the library had.
Okay. That was the first one I saw. And then there was one, an older one. I want to say it was made in the 50s. It could have been made before that. Oh, but I can't spoil it for you. After you watch it,
yes,
I'll have to tell you. Because you can have the exact same script and interpret things a little bit differently.
That's so interesting.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I'm excited. So, and I said in my TBR, like, I'm just getting an audiobook bundle. So I'm going to do a play a week of his. So it'll be The Importance of Being Earnest, A Woman of No Importance. Those are the 2 group reads. And then An Ideal Husband and Lady Windermere's Fan. And then Libby Stevenson on her TBR, she talked about how he has like comedic mysteries. Yeah. So the next year I'm like, well, I definitely like trying out one of those. So yes. I guess we could just freestyle now. Bethany, what's like another book that you're excited for?
I'm going to in like the Thomas Hardy wilderness that we've been exploring recently. I've read what book did I say I started out with reading of his?
Was it Woodlanders?
No. I should know this. It's terrible. No. Oh my goodness. I can't even believe how bad I'm blanking on this.
Right?
What'd you say?
Do the Obscure?
No, I didn't start with those ones.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Hold my milk.
What was it? Yeah, Becky, help. All my devices are open right now, and I'm like, I can't look to see which one I've read.
I'll find it.
Bethany, have we talked about before? Did you show this edition? I told you how there's a chapter that they put in the appendices, but it's an important chapter.
Far from the Madding Crowd?
Yes, it's not in the. He didn't publish this certain chapter originally, and then people were really confused. So make sure you look in the appendices. I honestly think I can remember it's chapter 14, and I could be making that up, but something really.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah.
Good to know. Well, that was the same thing with Return of the Native, wasn't it? There was like an edit on the end, at the end of the book or something. He had to change it. I'm like, what? I was a little upset. I was like, huh?
No, he gave it a less bleak ending. The Return of the
No,
Native.
and I did like that, but I don't know. It bothered me. I don't know why that bothers me, but it bothers me to know that. Know that wasn't his original intent. For some reason, I'm just like, how dare you? Yes. How dare you? Like, why didn't you just make it this way from the get-go? Now I feel like it's been like, smudge, like fix. Here, let's fix it. Like, I didn't want to know. I'm really like, I am at least stumped. But, yeah, Far from the Madding Crowd, wasn't that like on Libby Stevenson's flow chart? It was like at the top.
It was, she thought you should start with Crowd or Return to the Native. Yeah. It's so good. I do not like and I still loved it.
I'm so excited to read this. I'm like, okay, Return of the Native was really pretty good. Oh, I know what it was now.
I was gonna say I just found it.
Okay.
Desperate Remedies. If
Thank
you don't
you.
count,
I'm
if you
like,
don't
I do
count
not
his
remember
poetry,
the title, but I'm thinking of the plot in my head, and I'm going like, it was like one of those books where it was like, huh, what? When you're reading it, Desperate Remedies, you're like, what's going on? What is happening now?
I feel like it was my fault too that you started out with that because I like talked it up, and then the farther and farther I got from it, I'm like, no, I don't like it.
I've actually
fine.
started like with some books that I read on Goodreads. Usually I'll put a star rating, and there are some books where I'll just leave the star rating off because I feel like I'll feel one way, and in 3 months I may change my mind. And it's not, I don't know, it's a commitment putting stars on Goodreads. And I'm a Hufflepuff. I'm loyal. I don't like to change my star ratings later if I don't have to.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, the Hufflepuff in you.
I know. It's cursed.
Yeah, but that's one of my additionals that I would really love to get to. Because I'd like to keep the Hardy momentum going.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely planning. I'm like already have in mind like, oh, I want to do this Hardy. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep slowly but surely plugging away. So one that I'm excited for is The Princess and the Goblin. I love this cover.
That's a really cool cover.
Yeah. So also it's fun because I'm buddy reading it with Doris. I totally forgot to like say that in my TBR video. And then reading it with Peter. So it's totally like, he wasn't like, Mama, let's read a Victober book together. I was like, Peter, do you want to read a Victober book with me? But once I told him there were dwarves, he was like, okay, I will read it with you. Yeah, so I'm just going to start it at the beginning of the month because sometimes reading aloud chapter books, sometimes we'll get through one in a week, and then other times it will take us like a month to get through one. It just depends on like what our schedule's like, or what. A lot of times, if there's like shiny new library books, understandably, he wants to do the new library books. So yeah,
Right.
And this one also actually would qualify for the less than 250 pages. But I'm just very excited about George MacDonald. You know, I'm reading The Fisherman's Lady, and I really like it. And I love that, like, he was a father and he wrote these stories. That's just so whimsical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also very interesting as a pastor at a Calvinist church. And when you think of like Victorian Calvinists, they're very like hard hitting.
They had a reputation.
Like the Frozen Chosen. And he became a Unitarian while a Universalist while he was there. So they didn't officially fire him. They just they paid him too little to live on.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Didn't officially fire him. So then he was like, well, geez, like, and it was right when his wife was pregnant with her first child. So
Not cool.
Yeah, find a way to make some money. Yes. So I'm excited. It just seems really neat. And he had quite so. Becky, what is another book that you are looking forward to?
So I don't have it to show because I'm going to listen to it on audiobook. But last year I did a lot of children's Victorian stories. So I wanted a children's book, so I decided to listen to The Jungle Book, which I've actually learned is The Jungle Books. There was a volume 1 and a volume 2.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to do just so stories, but technically it's Edwardian. And I think it's barely Edwardian. Like, I want to say it's 1902, or, like, just misses. So, but I'm going to listen to The Jungle Books just to kind of mix it up. And another one that I'm listening to is I'm going to do the knit and listen that Kate and Mel from Mel's Bookman Adventures. And do you have a third host?
We have two more, actually.
Oh, you have two more hosts.
Curious Reader and Christy from the Tiny Chronicles.
Okay, can you say those again for the audience? Because I think I cut you off for one of them.
Natalie from The Curious Reader, and then Christy from the Tiny Chronicles.
Thank you. Anyway, so yes, I will be listening to Adam Bede. And I'm very curious. I've listened to, I wanted to get a head start And then my Harry Potter book came in, and I was like, well, that's it. Chamber of Secrets. Here we go. So I've listened to like at least the first chapter. I may have gotten to the second chapter. And at least in the first 2 chapters, it looks as though religion's going to be a pretty big theme, which I was not expecting, but that's always something that intrigues me, especially in that era. So, the length of it is really intimidating, especially because the project I'm working on is Fair Isle, which involves counting. But I can also, it doesn't have to be completely knit and listen. Like, I can fold laundry if I need to catch up on the audiobook. So
I am wondering too, because I picked a sweater that has cable knit, like a cable knit pattern. And so then I almost backed out and just picked a different sweater, but then I'm like, no, I need different size needles and different yarn. So we'll see. We'll see what we see. I also am checking out the physical copy from the library. I don't know, just in case. Because George Eliot, I really like her, but she's very serious and very heady.
yes.
So there's lots of philosophy and stuff. But Daniel Deronda, I didn't feel like I had trouble following it, whereas Middlemarch, I felt like I really had to pay attention.
So the only thing I've read by George Eliot is Silas Marner, which is so short compared to all of her other works. And I read it twice. I read it once in high school and liked it, and then I read it for Victober last year, and it felt very easy. And that one I did half audiobook, half physical copy on my Kindle. So that's a good tip. I may have to get a free Kindle version if I can't do the full audiobook, because there are some of those books I do better reading it. Just reading it with my eyes instead of my ears, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
I get that.
Bethany, do you have another one? I'm sure you do.
I have one more, maybe. Well, aside from the Oscar Wilde plays, which I'd love to participate in those too, but Framley Parsonage by Anthony Trollope, which was given to me by Becky, because Becky gives me all the Trollope books. No, she seriously does. She'll be like, hey, I'm in a bookstore. You want any books? And I'll be like, I'm looking for Trollope right now. And she'll be like, here's 15 I found. And I'm like, you're a book wizard. How did you find all of these? But yeah, this is the Barsetshire. I can never, because it's Barchester, Barsetshire, Barsetshire Towers. There's a bunch of different ones. I'm like, okay, which one is it?
But we need a British person to tell us how to pronounce these, because we're...
Please help us!
Well, it's also confusing. Angela Thirkle has it set in the same world, and her name is different, and so then I always actually get those two mixed up. One is the Barsetshire series, and one is the Barchester series.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is book, I think 5, isn't it? Book 5 in the series.
I thought it was book 4.
Yeah.
Is it 4?
5 is the Small House at Allington.
You're right. It is.
Framley Parsonage actually was my favorite in the series, and I don't know if it's because it was the one I was the most when I was the most in the mood for Trollope, because I go back and forth on how much I like him, or if I would go back, it would genuinely still be my favorite. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited because it's your favorite, and so far, each book has been better than the last in this series.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm hoping for that to continue. And honestly, Anthony Trollope is just fun to read. He is very interactive with the reader, I feel like. More so than maybe George Eliot or some of your other well-known.
Katie talked about his authorial voice. So it'll be
yeah.
I shall digress for about 2 pages on, what everyone was wearing. I do apologize.
And doesn't he say something about word count too? Here I'm filling in.
I don't get any books. I shouldn't shop for myself. And my husband will be like, let's go to bookstore. And I'm like, I can shop for Bethany and Kate, right?
And we love you for it. We love you for
Absolutely. It's especially a blessing considering, there are no used bookstores around me. At least none that are decent, where you're going to find classics. It's terrible. I have to wait every year for our library book sale to happen. This year, they had a handful of classics. They're, the most common ones, and they were all, lousy editions. And it was just I went one day because I was so disappointed. I was like, this is terrible.
I will happily supply you with all the books.
Thanks.
Okay. The next one I have picked is The White Company by Arthur Conan Doyle.
Ooh.
Yes. So going in for variety again, I was like, an adventure tale. That's what I should do. Because Becky, didn't you read Kidnapped last
I
year?
read Kidnapped last year, and my goodness, is that an adventure tale?
Yes. So and Bethany, don't worry, like Lorna Doone will like check off adventure tale.
Oh, great. Because I was thinking, wait, do I have something that fits that characterization there? Because, like,
yes,
I don't know, maybe Far from the Madding Crowd, or is that just social?
That's more social, I think.
Okay.
Great.
Well, at least I have one each.
So I am actually feeling kind of intimidated by this, basically because sometimes historical fiction can be like so info dumpy.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit worried about that. Dave, my husband, like loves this book and assures me not. And I'm like, you've also read Atlas Shrugged like 5 times just because. So I don't know if I trust what you think is like easy to read.
That book is a doorstop. It's huge.
No, right? But now he's like totally done with it. He's like, I'm never reading it again. So it has really nice illustrations, and I'm reading this with Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures because she loves books set in Scotland. So, okay, one little pet peeve though is it's like white edges there, white edges, and then pretty red sprayed edges, but only at the top.
Hmm.
First world book problem.
Yeah.
Becky, do you have another one?
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
So I've talked about everything on my A list. So I'm now moving on to the B list, and both of you gave very nice segues for 2 books on my B list. So I'm going to go rapid fire. So the first one is The Sign of 4 by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, one of the Sherlock Holmes stories, and this is going to be my kind of backup book under 250 pages. If I actually have the time to like not double up on challenges. So that's one of them. And then another one, oh, do I not have it here? Oh, I do. Another one, okay. Bethany, when you were talking about how great I am at finding books, all except this book. This was the evasive book, Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope, which is the third in the series. It comes before Framley Parsonage. And I had been hoping to read this before Victober so I could read Framley Parsonage with Bethany, but it didn't happen because I would go into bookstores looking for Trollope books for Bethany, and they would have everything except Dr. Thorne. They'd have 5,000 copies of The Warden. They'd have all these other copies. No Dr. Thorne. So Bethany actually brought out her copy for me so I could borrow it. And then I was at a free book event and I found a free copy of Dr. Thorne. Which is great, but it was not technically a bookstore. So I still have yet to find a bookstore that has Dr. Thorne.
Okay, I have a theory. And my theory is that the miniseries that Julian Fellows did a couple of years ago of Dr. Thorne made everyone aware of that one. And so if they're in a store and they're like, oh, Dr. Thorne, like I know about that miniseries.
I think so, because I've had a couple people who saw the miniseries and really liked it.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about it. It's a B-list book for me. Not that I don't want to get to it, but it is over 500 pages. And I want to prioritize the things on my A list. So this is I'm really hoping to get to it, but if I don't, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Mm-hmm. But it just took me a long time to find it, so it's kind of like, oh, the holy grail that I finally have and need to read. So, Victober just brings out all the drama, guys. Like, all the romanticism, it just comes out of the books and leaps into your soul, and suddenly you're fainting because you have Dr. Thorne in your arms or something. I don't
know. So Bethany, we're through all yours.
Yeah, that's all I had on my list.
Mm-hmm. I also have Goblin Market and Other Poems by Christina Rossetti. Kate attempts, yet again, to read poetry. Guess how many other Victobers I've tried to read poetry? 3. Guess how many Victobers I've read poetry? 0. So I'm at it again with this beautiful edition. And I hope the like ink doesn't rub off this one, like you said they do on some penguin.
Yes.
We shall see. My plan is to read 2 poems a day. That's going to be like first thing in the morning after quiet time is read 2 poems.
Nice. I know a lot of people really enjoy Christina Rossetti.
Yeah.
I memorized one of her poems in elementary school, but I don't remember which one it was.
Might have been Goblin Market. Maybe not. It might have been Uphill. Maybe it's Uphill. That one's shorter.
I want to say it involved a plant or a garden.
Oh.
I don't know.
Becky, do you have another one?
Oh, again, I got an A list and a B list, so I got. But I'll try to go rapid. I'll try to go rapid fire. So another one that I'd really like to get to. I don't know if I'm going to have time, and because Kate, it's a Bronte. I haven't read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall yet.
Oh wow!
And I'd like to read it. I actually have a couple people who have told me that this is their favorite Bronte, even over Jane Eyre. So I'm I don't know. I've heard like little snippets about the plot, but I'm trying to avoid spoilers, so I don't know a whole lot about it. But Kate, since you said Return of the Native felt like Wuthering Heights, I'm gonna see like if Return of the Native followed by Tenant of Wildfell Hall, like if that would be too much, I might table this for like further in winter. Yes. Again, variety. And then if for those who may or may not be watching this, Kate, I think you didn't love East Lynne. Did you DNF that one?
I did DNF it, but
okay. Bethany really liked it. Okay, so I'm like, two people fairly similar reading, but they had very different experiences with this book. So my backup sensation novel is The Doctor's Wife. I know, and I saw that you were reading it. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to buddy read it, but I really want to give East Lynne a try. But if I'm not feeling East Lynne, I'm gonna DNF it and then give this one a try. And I feel like, I felt like Lady Audley's Secret was a really easy read. So if I'm reading something heavy and I need something light, I have a feeling that I'll be able to pick this up and it'll feel a little bit more modern.
Not like more Mary Elizabeth Braddon that I love. It has to happen.
Well, you've only read 2, right? So you've had one that you love and one that you didn't love.
Being such a drama queen and being so like...
It's like me with Dickens.
Yes.
Where this is your tiebreaker. This could be your Oliver Twist.
Although, don't say that though, because... Well, I mean, I guess do say that, because then you liked Oliver Twist, right?
Yes, I did.
See, a fair number of people on my TBR commented on Hard Times, and the majority of them said they enjoyed it. There were a couple of people who like, oh yeah, I struggled with that one. But the majority of people said that they enjoyed it.
I think it's good that you're doing it as a buddy read, because I think it will maximize that experience for you. Because I didn't think Hard Times was a bad book. I didn't think it was like awesome. It didn't like stand out to me, but it might have if I had done it as a buddy read, because I feel like there's a lot of room for discussion, even though it is a shorter book. So
yes, and it's yeah, I kind of was like wanting to read Martin Chuzzlewit, but I'm like, I should pick a shorter Dickens. And so now I'm telling myself I'm going to pick November 1st. I'm going to pick up Martin Chuzzlewit, but of course I'll probably want a break. Like interesting timing too, because then at our Victorian book club, we went around and we were supposed to say like one Victorian novel that really impacted us. And there's a girl who's around my age and she's a professor already. So she's like a really young professor, and she studies cultural heritage. And she picked Hard Times, and she's like, and not like the most fun book ever, but it just really impacted me. It was when she was like starting to become more intellectual in her teenage years, and just it has a lot to say about industrialization and labor and the human experience in those conditions. And so, yeah, so I think I tried the audiobook last month, and I was like, this audiobook is going to make me hate this book. Like I tuned out minutes in, and I want to give it a fair shot. So like, I'm like, if I tuned out 15 minutes in, like, I just know already this is like, not for me.
Yeah.
I have one more? No, I don't. Those were all mine. Becky, do you want to do more rapid fire?
Well, we're down to my C list. So those are
Okay.
things that like I don't think I'm going to get to, but I can read them off real quick. Some of them I don't even have from the library. So there is a sequel to Kidnapped, or if I get to it, and if I want a children's novel, David Balfour is not a super high priority, but I did enjoy Kidnapped so much last year, and I know that this one's another like adventure tale. And I've had pretty good luck with Robert Louis Stevenson. Like I haven't come across something of his yet that I didn't enjoy. So that's kind of a backup. Kate, I think it was you. Maybe it was Bethany. I think it was you read the Old Nurses story by but I was kind of like, ooh, I'm intrigued. This sounds very interesting to me.
I think part of why I was so annoyed is that the first 6 chapters, like that we read that day, all of the group was like, "Oh my goodness, this book is so good. We're all so excited about it." And then it would like went just like suddenly down, down, down after that.
Okay. So anyway, again, probably won't get to this one, but I like giving myself options because I don't know what I'm going to feel come October 15th. I feel like I'll be in moods and then things may change. So
Yeah.
I'm giving myself lots and lots of options. And the last one, and I'm sorry, Kate, this is on the bottom of my list.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to get there. But if I have a miraculous reading month, I am going to give North and South a try. And North and South, not Wives and Daughters, because I know Wives and Daughters doesn't have an ending. And I'd like to give Elizabeth Gaskell a what?
People need to calm it down when they say Wives and Daughters doesn't have an ending. Some people like flip out and they're like, and I read it, and it didn't have an ending. It lacks like 5 pages.
Oh, okay.
And she told specifically what was going to happen. All right, rant done.
Well, no, that's good to know. But also, selfishly, this one's a little bit shorter. And I do think I would be more interested in, like, the industrialization class aspect.
Yes.
I just feel like, I don't know. I've got a gut feeling that I would probably initially enjoy North and South more. So I feel like if I enjoy this, I will be more motivated to one day, before I die, pick up Wives and Daughters.
You're not going to make me wait like 60 years for you to read it, are you?
No, not 60. Maybe 6, but not 60. I'm going to get there.
I think part of it is maybe the hype of Wives and Daughters is like pretty overwhelming at this point.
Maybe. And actually, you know what it is? And this is a really reason. Well, it's a couple things. One, it's hyped. Oh, sorry. 2, it's really chunky. Like, this is a paperback.
It's really chunky.
And 3, and this is not a fair reason. But I have a pink cover. And so I see Wives and Daughters and 2 women on the front and pink. And it's a gorgeous book. Like, I picked up this edition because I was like, it's so pretty. I might be motivated to read it if it's a pretty book and it feels nice. But I'm also just like, it looks super girly. And I'm a little afraid it's going to be like Victorian chick lit. And I enjoy modern chick lit, so I'm not at all bashing chick lit at all. And I agree with people that, like, chick lit involves a lot of other genres, so we really shouldn't give it a bad rap. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know what it is. One day, it's on my shelf. I have a copy. So when the spirit moves me, as my grandmother would say, when the spirit moves me, it'll be there for me to pick up.
And when you love it, I won't say, I told you so. Just say it.
Well, you can. If I love it, you can have a dance party and throw confetti and say, I told you so. I give you permission, and it is being documented on the internet.
And if you don't love it, then you can say, I told you so.
Okay. It's a deal. Virtual handshake.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, wow. This has been so much fun.
Yes.
Yes, this has been super fun.
Deal.
Yes. So all we have now is this short little weekend, a short little Monday, and then it begins.
I know. I'm so excited. I also am a little bit scared. Like, I looked at the calendar, I'm like, it's almost October. I've got so much reading to do.
I know. It is like it's starting to get like the Christmas pressure. Like it's got to be perfect and so memorable.
Seriously. I mean, I feel like we've been talking about Victober since last Victober. I mean, it really is like Christmas.
Yes, honestly. Truly. Yes. Well, thank you, ladies, and thank you anyone who watched live or will be watching later on. We hope you're all excited for Victober. This was a very lengthy live show for you, about an hour and a half.
Woo!
Yeah, so we'll be back sometime soon. We'll post on social media when our next live show is scheduled. We don't know when it will be. So have a lovely evening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.